Test.
Hello?
Test.
Let's try this one. There we go. Okay, I'd like to call the April 7th Board of Education special meeting open. If we could have a moment of silence. Flag salute. In accordance with the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act, a public notice of this meeting has been sent to board members, all district schools, the Herald News, the Suburban Trends, the Record, the Messenger, West Milford Town Hall, the County Superintendent's Office, the Board Attorney, Cablevision of Warwick and West Milford TV 77, and posted in the Administration Building. Copies of the board meeting calendar resolution were provided to all local media, Town Hall, Township Library, and all district schools. Mrs. Patagno, roll call, please.
Mr. Sitovich?
Here.
Mrs. Dwyer? Here. Mr. Garino?
Here.
Mrs. Jurgensen? Here. Mr. Lippy? Mrs. Marquardt? Here. Mrs. Rapano? Here. Mrs. Van Dyke? Here. And Mrs. Laughlin?
Here. Okay, I'm now going to open the meeting up to Dr. Kitchen.
All right, so we all know why we're here this evening. We're here to go through a presentation on a school closure. So we're not going to waste any time. We're going to get right into our presentation and go over some of the data that went into the decision. Board members, if you'd like, you can sit over this way so you can see the presentation. Members will come around front. Okay, so by this point, you have all, I'm sure, seen the correspondence that we put out regarding some of this. Hopefully, you've had the opportunity to review information from our budget presentation, view the video if you weren't able to attend our budget meeting, to understand a little bit more about the circumstance that we find ourselves in that forces our hand in this position. So a couple things that we're looking at in trying to decide what school we were going to close. Our goal in all of this was to limit the impact on students and staff. Obviously, a decision of this magnitude is going to have an impact, but our goal is to limit it as much as possible. And limit the impact to staff, students, and families for a smooth transition. Trying to maintain program integrity, making sure that our programs are still functioning appropriately at all levels. And then obviously fiscal responsibility, making sure that we have a passable budget while still making sure that we're providing everything we can to our students. So some of the considerations, and I know I spoke about some of the things we would be looking at during the budget presentation, but we looked at infrastructure, so age of buildings, size of buildings, value of the property itself. Cost of operations, so that's obviously utilities, maintenance, but also upcoming capital projects, because there are several across all of our schools. Student impact as well, so obviously enrollment trends matter, size of the school, but also looking at which students were impacted a few years ago during the closure of Westbrook and trying to limit the number of students that would be impacted a second time. And then, of course, special education programs, making sure that we're mindful of those programs. And we have special ed programs in each of our buildings, but looking at the impact that that would have. And then just overall logistics for transportation. So here's some of the information as we go through the breakdown, so you can see that our buildings are, all of our buildings are a little bit older. And you can see our capacities there. These capacity numbers are based on the Haber demographic study. So the Haber demographic study was a study done on enrollment trends for the district. It was done several years ago, but the data has been updated to make sure we're looking at all of the information related to our building capacities. Demographic in the local municipality has declined over the past 10 to 15 years, but this study was also looking at the impact that then has on our schools themselves. So, and then you can see the number of classrooms that we have in each of the schools. And you see we also list how many of them have dedicated bathrooms. So obviously all of our schools have bathrooms, but the dedicated bathrooms matter statutorily. They matter in certain programs. So preschool programs, kindergarten programs, and then several special education programs do require dedicated bathrooms. And even some that don't require dedicated bathrooms, that is the recommendation from the state and from the County Department of Ed office when you're putting those classes in there. Looking at cost of operations, so some of the numbers that we pulled, these are the utilities numbers for this past year. So you can see the total number, that is looking, not all of our schools have the same utilities. Some of our schools have oil, some have natural gas, we have different electrical providers depending on where we're located in town. But these are the total numbers for each of those. And then obviously as we're looking at capacities of buildings, what's the cost breakdown per classroom for how much value we're gaining out of each of those individual rooms. And then on the capital project front, so all of our buildings have upcoming capital projects on the long-range facility plan. We can see that our security vestibule is something that is happening across the board. PA system in a couple of our buildings and a few other topics. And then Mr. Glenn go. So, Mr. Glenn, do you want to talk a little bit about so we've got a couple of special considerations on the security vestibule at Marshall Hill, and then we got some highlights on some of the UGL projects.
Okay, so the security vestibule at Marshall Hill, that's a larger project because of the way the main entrance is at Marshall Hill. PK has the heating unit that's controls the heat in the front section of that building. That unit needs to be replaced. Generator needs to be replaced. We have some capital projects that are in the works for UGL, windows, and the security.
So those highlighted projects are ones that have been approved and the work has not started yet, but the purchasing and the planning process through the architect has already begun. So going through current student population, you can see what our enrollment capacity is versus the number of students that we have and the number of available seats. It's just to give you an idea of the building usage, what it is. That's obviously not a very straightforward number all the time, because if you've got a third grade classroom that has 18 kids in the room, you can't go filling the additional seats with first grade students. So capacities obviously are subject to change based on student population within the building, but it just gives you a general idea of the building usage. And then our special programs, I'm going to let Dr. Swartz speak a little bit on those.
Sure. Each building has its own group of self-contained special education programs. But some of the numbers look a little high, and when you take a look at them, it's a little hard to understand what they may mean. The first number is the number of programs, classrooms in that building consuming a program. So across the district, there are 15 classrooms of self-contained students. But for example, at Marshall Hill, the number is 19 students. That's because it's an AM and a PM preschool disabled classroom with inclusion preschool students in the afternoon. So there's more students being served in that program, even though it's just one room. This is broken down over 2 periods of the day.
And then your building-based pull-out resources not factored into this number.
Correct. Building-based resource and next year's in-class replacement classes are not built into those numbers. Those are considered students that take general education seats.
speaking on transportation, obviously transportation is a key factor in this, and so we have sat down with our Director of Transportation, Tricia Perulli, to go over some of this information. So some of the things we're looking at are obviously our total number of routes, how long our individual routes are, proximity to a second route, so that is tied sort of specifically to when a afternoon high school, middle school route is finished, how close are they to the pickup location for the second route. So that has a significant impact on our ability to maintain our appropriate school time. So certainly a building that is farther away, or a neighborhood that is farther away from the next building that will be picked up, that has an impact on the timing of those routes, and then overall the number of students that are displaced there. So I don't know if I missed anything there, Ms. Perulli, anything to add? So we sat down together to kind of go through some of those things. So with the information that we have, unfortunately, this is a very challenging discussion, but Paradise Knoll School is the building that we will be closing for next year, for the reasons that you're able to see on some of the data on the slides. So it does have our lowest student population. It has our highest operational cost and highest cost of upcoming capital projects. It's our oldest building. It has our fewest usable classrooms and our fewest classrooms with dedicated bathrooms. It's challenging. It really is. It's upsetting no matter what direction we go with this. But unfortunately, the financial situation that we are in, based on the state funding that we're receiving and the additional costs that we're taking on, we don't really have a choice but to close a school. And if we're going to be closing a school, we need to make sure we're doing one that is having, obviously, the least overall impact. So, again, looking at, and I don't mean that to diminish the impact on those that are here this evening, on our staff. We got the opportunity to speak with our PK staff this afternoon and let them know what was coming, and we really genuinely appreciate everything they contribute. Our PK families, this is not an easy decision and not one that we take lightly, but we're trying to minimize the overall impact. And also, as we look at the student population, there are no students currently enrolled in Paradise Knoll School who were impacted by the previous school closure a few years ago. And whereas each of the other schools has a student population that was impacted in that way. So looking at the overall savings and what this will do in our budget, so you can see the numbers, about $2.9 million that we're able to save for this. Now, with that, it's hard to pinpoint a really specific number because some of those are short-term costs, some of those are long-term costs, right? So some of it is recurring costs for salaries and benefits and operational costs, and some of that is tied to some of the capital projects that are in there. So I don't know, Ms. Protagonist, do you have anything else to add to where that number comes from?
Yeah, I mean, this number includes all of those capital projects that you saw on one of the previous slides. So, short term for 27, about $1.3 million in savings, and then the rest of those capital projects, which wouldn't happen, right within the next 5 years, it would save about $2.9 million.
All right, so we want to go over some of the impact of this change. So as we go through and we look at the number of classes that we'll still be able to support in the remaining buildings, our average anticipated class size is about 21 students. Obviously, there'll be a range there, with some classes still being in the mid-teens, a few classes being a little bit higher than that. At the moment, we don't anticipate any classes that would be more than 24 or 25. Obviously, enrollment can change, so I don't want to make promises, but that is in order to help keep us in those places. So that's our anticipated class size based on the redistrict discussion. So one thing I also want to point out, in this process, in order to create space, one thing we had to evaluate was whether or not we would need to shuffle grade levels to make space for these classes. So we investigated what that would look like. So in such a move, all right, 5th grade could theoretically move to Macoupin, and 8th grade could theoretically move to the high school. As you can see in the numbers down below, based on our enrollment and capacities, we could house those students, but obviously there's a more significant impact if we do that. So that's something we don't want to do, and that's something that at this time we don't feel we will need to. It's something that we're not expecting to be part of the budget for next year. We believe we through some creative and efficient uses of our classroom spaces, we may lose some conference spaces, we may have some dual purpose rooms as far as some of the related services, speech, OT, PT are going to have some shared spaces, and then we have to be mindful of that in our scheduling. But that's going to allow us to limit that further impact to our students for next year. So, School of Residency changes. Obviously, some factors that we're going to be considering in this is limiting the number of students with a second school change after the repurposing of Westbrook. So, we may not be able to avoid moving any students a second time, but we are trying to limit the number of students that impacts. We're looking to balance enrollment across the buildings. We need to make sure we have appropriate classroom space for special education programming. And we're going to talk a little bit about kindergarten screening and orientation. So our goal is to centralize that process anyway. So we go through our kindergarten screening and our orientation. We'd like to do that in a central location where we bring our staff together so that all of those screenings are taking place using the same screeners, using the same process. So that will not be a factor in your neighborhood won't be a factor in that process because it's going to be centralized. So even if you're not sure where your school of residency is going to exist just yet, that will be taken care of. And then, so transportation, we do have software that can help to identify the most efficient routes. So we have a software called TransFinder, which will look at our district as a whole and try to make sure that in the absence of one of our schools being open, what's the best way for us to divide things up to limit the routes. It looks at student addresses and so on and creates the most efficient use of those. So again, identifying some of these routes can be challenging. Trying to limit the length of all of those routes. I know one of the things that we had a conversation with Ms. Perulli about was obviously you're going to increase the length of some of those routes, but there's really two factors in that. So increasing the length of routes from a standpoint of asset management and wear and tear on the buses, you're looking at miles added to those buses. But from a student perspective, we're looking at time on the bus. So one of the things that we're looking at is if you're taking kids from a specific neighborhood, so in this case, if kids are leaving their neighborhood in PK, as long as we're not adding additional routes or additional stops on the way to their next location, you're adding the time that it takes to get from one school to the next, but you're not adding all those stops that are going to make the trip that much longer. So special education, do you want to talk a little bit about this, Dr. Schwartz?
Sure. As I mentioned before, West Milford currently has 15 elementary self-contained special education classrooms across the district. We'll be considering those placements very carefully to maintain program continuums. Facility needs, as Dr. Kitchen mentioned, some programs benefit or need a bathroom directly accessed from their classroom. Maximizing inclusion opportunities and looking at playground access and safety. All schools will maintain their current resource center and in-class replacement programming. Those numbers are capped by the state, so those will not grow in size. They'll maintain their size. We cannot make them larger. We would have to add more sections of those resource center programs. So everything will be done carefully, placing students appropriately, and then case managers will be reaching out to those families to let them know where their classroom will be placed for the next school year as soon as we have those decisions completed.
So staffing changes, obviously there's going to be some changes to our staffing when you're closing a building. So Some of our staff will receive reduction in force notices. So that just basically means they're not being terminated with cause, they're not being non-renewed, they're being non-renewed because of a reduction in force. So to the greatest extent possible, we're going to limit those to non-tenured staff. That doesn't feel any better. We've got some great non-tenured staff members. Obviously, we would love to maintain as many of those roles as we can. But as we construct our schedules, some of those RIF staff members will be offered their position back. Obviously, there's certain positions where they're certificate-based, and so while it may even be a non-tenured staff member, there is the genuine possibility that the certificate that they hold means that there is not a chance of their position being eliminated. But we will be asking our staff for input regarding their movement. So we're going to be seeking information about, what their grade level preferences are. That will obviously go to all of our staff, but it will also be an optional form that can be filled out by our other staff members in the district in case there's someone looking for a change, and then we can factor that into some of the shuffle. So while we can't make any guarantees, we do, to the best of our ability, want to factor in some input from our staff on how we make some of these changes. So talking a little bit about some of our transition planning. So all of our elementary students are going to receive a letter with their school assignment by mail. Special programs will be notified by their case managers, but you will be communicated with directly from your school. Obviously, following this meeting, we'll be spending time sitting down with our building principals and kind of going through all of this, but you'll be receiving some direct communication there. If neighborhoods need to be moved, they will move together. So obviously there'll be some redistricting associated with this, but we'll be moving neighborhoods to the same schools. We will have some student support available for students who are upset and kind of need to talk through some of their needs. And we're looking to honor PK community traditions as we're hosting some of these final events. So we've been in communication with the PTA even this afternoon, trying to have some conversations about what we can do to help support our PK community as we close out this school year. All right. I just want to remind all of you of the financial cause of the situation that we're in. So the rise in operational costs is what is putting us in this situation. The number one biggest cause there being the increase in health benefits. So our health benefits have gone up by 21% this year. That's not information we have available to us until budget season. That's when our broker comes out with that information and shares those numbers with us. So $3.4 million increase is considerably more than we are able to prepare for. 2% of our local tax levy is about $1.2, $1.3 million. $3.4 million in health benefits alone does not allow, obviously, any room. We're in the negative right out of the gate with that. Also, our funding structure. So we are 87% funded through our local tax levy. That is among the highest in the state of New Jersey. Our taxpayers are supporting almost our entire school budget. Only 8% is state funded. Obviously, there's a little bit of a gap there. Some of that is title funding or federal funding or different revenue sources like tuition students coming in for under academy, things like that. So there is a bit of a gap there, but we're only 8% funded by the state. If you look at a per pupil state, state aid, and you just look at the average for the state of New Jersey, if we received the average amount of state aid per pupil in this district, we would have an additional $22 million. So we absolutely are. So I think that we've been advocating to our legislators, and we actually have one of our legislators here this evening to speak to it because they've been advocating for us. There is a push, there is a fight to try to improve our funding. But again, so we'll get through that. But obviously, if you've seen the letters that have gone out, you know that I've shared much of the data with you as a community member so that you're aware, as well as who you can communicate with and some data and some form letters to help join this fight. That's a big part of the reason why we want to bring everybody here this evening, because this is catastrophic, us having to close an additional school. This is a really big deal. And yet, this isn't the end of our financial crisis, because the reality is we cannot keep sustaining these massive health benefits increases. You know, one of the things that's not on this particular slide, but was in our budget presentation, our utilities are going up drastically. So our gas is going up by 50%. So we're seeing massive increases in these areas, and if you go through, our budget information is available. You can go through and see there are not other lines that are raising costs one year to the next. It is all things that are out of our control. Even in the health benefits piece. So look, Chapter 44 drives the cost to the district. So this is not something, look, we have the appropriate number of staff members. We have, our staff members are appropriately compensated. They're doing the things that they need to be doing. Our staff members are outstanding. We don't want to lose any of them. Our staff has no control. This isn't a negotiated piece with the WMEA. We don't control locally through the WMEA or the board. We don't control these costs or the drivers behind these costs. So we just have to deal with what's going on. So when we sat with Assemblywoman Sweeney a few weeks ago, we kind of talked about some of those things and said these are the biggest challenges that we're facing. You know, and she's very sympathetic to it because she's got a background in this area. So our voices are being heard, and we're going to hear a little more from Ms. Sweeney in a few moments here. But again, these are costs that are out of our control, and they're not known to us until it is time to put the budget together. So speaking about that a little bit more, even our state aid numbers, you know, the governor's address to share out state aid numbers was getting pushed back. For anybody who's paying attention to those things, about a week before the numbers were officially released, it was stated that there's going to be a 6% cap on any district receiving state aid. So when the numbers were released, we received 6%. We received the max that was being given to any district in the state. Now that being said, there were a handful of districts that got more than 6%. But even if you just look at those prioritized districts, if you look at the districts that the state said we need to give more money to these schools, we're giving them all 6%. A percentage-based system based on already flawed numbers doesn't work, because 6% of a lower number is a lower number. So we went through district by district across the state and pulled from all of the local budgets information about what 6% really looked like for all of those prioritized districts. About 224 total districts, I believe was the number, that got 6% or more. Among those districts, there were districts getting as much as 5.6, 5.2, 4.9% increase in their total operating budget. So 6% from the state was a very similar number in their total operating budget because of how much they are funded locally. West Milford received 0.4% of our total operating budget, about $300,000. When you see numbers that are this drastic, it's just not enough. When you look at a per pupil increase, right, there were districts that were receiving as much as $1,500 more per pupil in state aid next year versus this year. We were receiving $119 per student. So it's just not a fair way to evaluate our needs. If we're already being underfunded, and then that's the measure by which we're figuring out what we should be receiving, it's not going to work, because we can't be capped at 6%. It's only going to increase the divide between us and other districts. That is without factoring in the Highlands impact. So we don't have the ability to increase ratables locally. We just don't. So here we are protecting the water for the region, for all of North Jersey, but that prevents us from then building more neighborhoods, adding more businesses that would then be an increase to our tax base, which would reduce the burden on all of you in trying to help support our district. So even if we were being funded 87% locally, but that could be distributed among more people because we were allowed to increase the base, that would have a significant impact. But unfortunately, that's not how that funding is being is being distributed. All right, so just talking a little bit about some of our other cost-saving measures that are tied to this. So it's not just about closing a school, so there is an administrative restructure. So we're reducing our total number of administrators in the district, and we're restructuring how we are allocating the remaining administrators and what the roles are going to be. Athletic stipends, we've reduced the total number of athletic stipends, which will reduce, but not eliminate, opportunities for freshman sports. So we utilize the freshman stipends as the measure, but we've been already working with our athletic director to try to make sure that we're still providing opportunities for freshmen, even if not standalone teams. Our athletic director will be sitting with us as a board to kind of go through all of our athletic programs and discuss how to make that reduced budget work. And then obviously staffing reductions. When you close a building, there are certain staffing positions that are no longer necessary, but even with classroom teachers, we will need fewer if we have fewer, if we're able to condense some of our classes a little bit. Still within reason in terms of total numbers, but that's what we're looking to do. And we have a flat or negative budget across almost all of our budgetary lines. Obviously, salary and benefits is one that is contractual and is required, so those are going to increase appropriately. But the big increases are those benefits lines and our utilities lines. The rest of our budget, if you've reviewed it, you know. If you haven't, I strongly encourage that you do. The rest of our budget lines are being significantly reduced, and what you'll see is benefits in particular over the past 10 years has occupied such a larger piece of the pie from what it ever did previously. So our salary and benefits is a smaller percentage than it ever was. Our salary is a smaller percentage than it ever was. Our benefits is a higher percentage than it ever was, and everything else is a considerably smaller percentage, which means all of the things that make a district unique, the programs that we bring in, the courses that we fund, there's less money for us to do things to set ourselves apart from other districts because our money is going into this benefits line from, again, a broken system without additional support. So I talked about this a little bit, but I want to speak a little more about the future uncertainties. So this is not the end of our situation. We're hoping we see some traction, and we are seeing traction. Our voices are being heard, but we're hoping that we see some changes to the way that we're being funded and some changes to the overall cost of health benefits and things like that. But we need to make sure that all of you are here this evening because you're connected to this district and you care. We need your voice. We need you to be a part of this. The board did not want to do any of these things. Every single member of the board, every member of our administrative team has lost sleep over all of this for the past several weeks, trying to figure out how to make all of these things work. Making sure we are communicating with legislators, making sure we are getting the word out there to the community. But we need you to echo those voices. So back to the question earlier, what can be done? What can be done is go back, look at the email that I sent out. You can review the data yourself to see if you want to write your own letter. There's a form letter in there if you want to just take what I have written. My letter is attached. My most recent letter, there's another one that went out prior to that. And you're welcome to reach out. There are contact information for many of our legislators on there for you to share your voice and make sure they know that we are genuinely concerned about the future of our district for all of these reasons. And our students, our kids in this community deserve equitable funding compared to their peers across the state. They deserve it. It's not fair that you're shouldering this burden and we are now sitting here looking at a significant impact on our schools. And it might not be done. If we have to close an additional school, we could fit more kids into some of our buildings. We don't want to take steps that are more impactful than needs to be done, especially in a community as large. 88 square miles trying to transport kids across town. It is hard. It isn't fair. It puts kids on buses for a longer period of time. It limits their ability to stay focused while they're in the classroom. But we could shuffle more grade levels up to the high school which would have a major impact on age differences in the building. We could shuffle more students into the middle school and reduce another school. We don't want to. We could be, like I said, grade level shifts, additional staff cuts. All of those things would come with larger class sizes. So right now we're in a position where, as much as this is increasing class sizes a bit, we've managed to, through the way we've budgeted this and tried to find ways to cut everywhere else, we've managed to keep the class sizes appropriate, but that will not continue to be true if we continue on this path. And I'm sure you've probably seen across the state of New Jersey, there are a lot of districts that are facing similar crises with their funding. And to be honest with you, I think the benefit to that is that it also has opened people's eyes to the fact that the funding formula and the structure is broken, and there are things that need to be fixed. So the benefit we have is that we can tap into that momentum and make sure that we are making it clear that among all these districts that are in financial trouble, we are quantifiably in a worse situation based on the funding that we're receiving. You almost could not argue that we are treated more fairly than anybody else in the state. We are among the worst districts in the state in terms of how we are treated in state funding. So, with all of that, we're going to open up to public comment shortly, but before we do, I do want to give Assemblywoman Sweeney the opportunity to speak. Are you ready to come up and chat? If you'd like, you can take this one.
Great. All right, hello everybody. I wanted to come here and I wanted to meet everybody. I wanted to get as much information about this situation as possible, so thank you for the presentation. I was just elected 2.5 months ago. This is a problem, as you had mentioned. It's a problem that a lot of towns are seeing across the state of New Jersey. I feel like the combination of the school funding formula as it relates to the effects of the Highlands Act has been a ship sinking into the sea for the past 10 years now. And I just got in here 2.5 months ago trying to plug holes in it. But I am here to advocate for you as much as possible. This is absolutely my #1 priority, is to get the schools in this district funded properly. So that's what I'm here for. And we've had conversations before, and as this budget season continues to unfold, we're going to continue to talk. And I definitely want to continue to hear from all of you. So please don't hesitate to reach out to my office. I'm very available. My chief of staff is right here. This is Adam. And we're going to be here for the remainder of the meeting. But I really just wanted to come up here and introduce myself, let you know who I am and what my intentions are. And I'm here to advocate for you. That's what I am here for. And as I said, this is #1 priority. #1. So we'll be talking as this budget season continues to unfold.
Obviously, I want to thank Ms. Sweeney for being here with us this evening, but I also want to thank you for your willingness to listen to us. So once our communication went out about some of the concerns that we were having and the issues we were facing, she made herself immediately available, as did her chief of staff. And so we got to sit down and go through all of this. We had a very in-depth meeting where we went through all of the details of the problems that we're facing and what the impact is. And she's been tremendously receptive to that message, tremendously willing to speak out on our behalf. When we extended the invitation for this evening to her, she said, just no hesitation, I'll be there. So we really appreciate you being here this evening. I also have a letter to read from Assemblywoman Dunn. So board members, if you'd like, we can come on back to our seats. You'll have to bear with me because I just discovering I need glasses more than I realized I did. Dear friends, please accept my sincere regrets for being unable to join you this evening. I am grateful for the opportunity to share these remarks and to stand with you in support of your community. I want to begin by acknowledging the very real and difficult situation facing West Milford. The continued strain on your district is deeply concerning. I know how much this impacts students, families, educators, and the broader community. These are not just budget decisions, they are decisions that affect the fabric of your town. I have heard directly from many of you, parents, teachers, and local leaders, and I share your deep frustration with the inequities in the state's current school funding formula. The combination of declining state aid, rising costs, and limited availability to raise local revenue has created an unstable situation for Highlands communities like West Milford. As your state assemblywoman, I want you to know that this is a fight I take very seriously. I've introduced a series of measures as part of my Clean Water Promise Package, which recognizes the unique challenges faced by communities in the Highlands region, communities that protect the drinking water for more than 70% of New Jersey residents. This includes legislation to strengthen municipal and school aid for Highlands towns, as well as a constitutional resolution to bring long overdue reforms to the School Funding Reform Act and stabilize state aid for districts like yours. These efforts are about fairness. They are about ensuring that communities like West Milford are not penalized for protecting one of our state's most critical natural resources. I will continue to advocate for meaningful, lasting solutions that provide stability for your schools, support your educators, and opportunities for your students. I remain committed to working with the state leadership, local officials, and community advocates to ensure your voices are heard and your concerns are addressed. Thank you for coming together this evening and for continuing to speak out. Your engagement matters and it strengthens this effort. Please know that I stand with you and I will continue fighting for fair school funding for West Milford and for all Highlands communities. Sincerely, Maura K. Dunn, Assemblywoman, District 25. So again, I think I read that to you because obviously she wanted to be here with us this evening, but I do want you to be aware that you have people that are fighting for you right now. Our assembly people are listening, our senators are listening. We have gotten responses from the communication that has gone out, but it doesn't stop there because if we're quiet, then we can be ignored. If we're not, then they have to listen to us. I think it's really important that I don't need you to do the research on your own, I need you to echo the voice. So that's why I wanted to make sure what I provided to the community gave you all the tools you needed to help be an advocate for our schools, because we are going to continue to face more problems if we don't get some positive change at the state level. I do believe that it is a very real possibility, and in the near future, because of the traction that we have right now and because of the willingness of our legislators to speak out on our behalf. So again, thank you to both Assemblywomen for their advocacy.
Thank you, Dr. Kitchen. So, good evening, everyone. Thank you all for being here tonight. Before we begin, the board wants to acknowledge something important to everyone at this table tonight, everyone in this room, and everyone in their homes. Our schools are at the heart of this community. They are places where students grow, friendships are formed, and memories are made. We know how deeply everyone cares about them, and we share that pride and love for our schools with you. The purpose of tonight's meeting is to share information, and most importantly, to hear from you, our community. There will be no vote on anything that was discussed this evening. We know that the possibility of changes in our schools is emotional and challenging. These are not decisions we want to make, and they weigh heavily on the board and on our administration. But we must face the realities before us and consider what is needed to ensure our schools remain strong and sustainable for the future. Your voices tonight matter. We want to hear your thoughts, concerns, and ideas. We ask that everyone share respectfully so all voices can be heard. Thank you again for being here, for caring so deeply, and for standing with us as we navigate this challenging time. So at this time, we will be moving into public comment. Tonight's public comment will be structured slightly different. All speakers will have 5 minutes to speak, with the 30-minute limit suspended for this meeting. So therefore, we will have unlimited speakers. We will then offer follow-up comments after everyone has had a chance to speak to 2 minutes. Before speaking, please state your name, your group, affiliation, and address for the record. Members of the public who have requested to speak prior to the meeting will be recognized by the chair first. After speaking, all speakers are asked to sign the register provided, give their full name, group affiliation, and their address. All statements shall be directed to the presiding officer. No participant may address or question board members individually. All speakers are expected to have read the statement within the agenda regarding the regulations concerning public comments. Members of the public are reminded that they are legally responsible and liable for their comments. So tonight, the podium over here will be where speakers can come up. There are some that have signed up, so they will be getting the priority of speaking first. And after I finished calling them up to speak, anyone else who wishes to speak, please just line up at the podium and you will get your chance. So, yeah.
Just one last thing before we step into public comment. I just want to recognize our PK staff. I know many of you are online this evening. Some of you are here with us. And standing in front of you this afternoon was one of the most difficult things that any of us have had to do. You know, this is such a challenging time, and I just, you know, making a decision, no matter how much our hands are forced in this, making a decision like this as Ms. Lockwood said, it weighs very heavily on us, and I just want to commend all of you for your caring, your compassion, your professionalism. You know, we felt how big of an impact this has on all of you and all of your lives, and just I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for everything that you do for students of our community, and I'm just so sorry that this is a situation that you're being placed in at this time. It's just not fair, but I appreciate every one of you, and I know that I speak for all of us when I say that.
So the first person signed up to speak is Mrs. Maria Tejan.
Thank you all for being here tonight. My name is Maria Tejan. I'm the president of the Paradise Knoll PTA, and standing beside me is Jessica Brand, our wonderful corresponding secretary. So before I share the prepared statement with everyone tonight, we do have some questions that Jessica would like to ask the board regarding your presentation.
Thank you all. We understand that this is not a decision that comes lightly. I think we all, you know, we're there with you. We empathize with the decision you have to make. It's obviously not an easy one and not one that anyone wants to be a part of. So thank you for presenting this. Assemblywoman Sweeney, thank you for being here. You did mention that this has been an issue for the last 10 years. So the writing has been on the wall for a while. I think it's a pain point amongst all of our PK families that this was something that was sprung up on us. We felt like it was sprung on our families. We felt like this decision was made with an extremely short timeline provided for us to prepare our children, transition what's about to happen. So I think you could understand from our point of view and from our perspective, it just feels a little much to take in. I think some of our questions are, if this was possibly proposed 2 years ago when Westbrook School was closed, why was that not shared amongst the public? That way we could all come together and fight the way we are now and the way we are today fighting for these budget, or for our budget to be, I guess, fixed. I'm losing my train of thought here. But I think we all just feel like this fight could have been done a few years ago. If we had known earlier on that this was happening, we would all come here, we would gather together, and we would fight like we are now. Because we are all ready to do it right now, so that we have to save future schools from closing, so that we save the grade chunking for future, so that we save sports programs. This is not something that any of us want. So I think that is a common pain point right now, and something that a lot of our families are frustrated by. I also wanted to ask about some things that were stated in the presentation. Thank you for providing the breakdown of the 2.9 million in savings, because that was a question for us. And I think, can you just clarify, you did briefly mention like the one-time versus the recurring savings. Was transportation included in that? No, okay. Will there be a detailed breakdown of that 2.9 million in savings provided? Yeah, okay. I think a lot of us are also curious what the district's long-term plan is for the property at PK. If you guys have any response to that you can share. Or is...
So unfortunately, we don't typically answer questions.
Oh, okay.
We operate as a body, so not one person up at this
can respond.
Can speak for any others, but I know that will definitely be a discussion for the future. So.
Right. Okay, thank you.
We are anticipating a fair amount of questions this evening that may not be able to be answered. Okay. So as part of that, obviously the board, in operating as a body, needs to collaborate and discuss and take a unified stance as one. So our plan is to also gather all the information that we're not really able to respond to and make sure that that's provided to the board collectively, so if there's an opportunity for us to share out further information later on, that we're able to do that. So I apologize that some questions can't be answered directly, but doesn't mean we're not listening. It doesn't mean we won't be discussing it with the board as a whole.
Thank you. Okay. I think another concern, I know we talked about average class sizes. I think the concern would be if we can see what max class sizes would look like by grade and by school, if that's something that can eventually be provided or figured out for us, because that would be a concern amongst parents. Let's see. I'm sorry, I didn't have a lot of time to prepare between the slides going out and trying to make dinner and everything for the kids. Okay, property values. So in the long-term plan that you discussed, obviously it doesn't seem like this closure is, or could it be sufficient enough, I guess is my question. And if that is determined on what happens at the state level and what type of funding we get, if we are seeing that the projection is that we're gonna have to close again, and I'm hoping that that information would be provided to the public more ahead of time so that we can maybe fight or try to do what we can on our end to be able to help you guys from closing another school. Special education. Oh, in a second. So I know on the capital projects page, you listed out a bunch of the capital projects per school. I was not aware about some of those for PK, and maybe like we wouldn't be because we are on the PTA, but you know, it's part of our responsibility to provide those items or help fund those items that are needed. So we weren't aware that a lot of those things were on the capital improvement budget. Do you have projected costs for those items, or that we can see, like a detailed line by line what the savings would be?
So,
Okay, awesome, thank you.
so capital projects are in the long-range facility plan for the
Okay.
district, so there's a breakdown, you know, building by building of what those capital projects are.
Okay.
And they're funded through capital reserve typically.
Okay.
In terms of how that's all projected out. So that gets updated every few years, but they look at the short-term and long-term requirements.
Okay. I did have fellow neighbors and parents who were concerned and wanted to know about the students at PCTI. That seems to be something that a lot of people are confused on or don't understand. Is this something that can't be answered again?
So unfortunately, we don't typically answer any question in public comments. If we answer your questions, then we have to answer everyone's
so this is more of a
questions.
comment.
So, and
What
that's
is
not.
the best way? Would it be to email and get responses? Okay.
So you can ask your questions. We're writing them down.
Oh, okay.
So they will be answered, just not this evening.
Okay, got it. Sounds
Yeah.
good. Thank you. Sorry, first time speaking here at the meeting. Okay, she's gonna speak our letter.
So this is just public comments. We cannot call out when someone is up speaking, first of all. Second of all, this is not typically, so public comments is just a time for the community members to come up and speak. We can't answer questions because we can't speak, right, individually. We have to speak as a unit. And again, if we answer questions for one, we have to answer questions for everyone. But that's not what public comment is about. So I'm going to stop this now and allow them to finish. And I know, Ms. Tahan, you can take your 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much. I'd just like to quickly share the value that Paradise Knoll has brought to West Milford. So as parents of students at PK, we know our elementary school is more than just a building or a line item in a budget. It's a place that has shaped the lives of countless children in this town for 70 long years, and it deserves to be recognized for what it truly is. This past school year alone, some of our staff members were the honorary recipients of both the Governor's Educator of the Year and Educational Services Professional Awards. Dory Torp, our paraprofessional in the climb program, and Kelly Frasca, our first grade teacher. They were recognized as amongst the finest in the region because they go above and beyond for our children every single day. That level of dedication doesn't just happen overnight. It is built over years within our community. We were also just informed that Paradise Knoll has been awarded the Elementary School Rising Star Award for our production of the Wizard of Oz musical. This is a prestigious statewide recognition from Montclair State University's Foxy Theater Awards. And the first year they've opened up these awards to elementary schools. It's amazing. This makes this honor even more special. The Thanks to the guidance and expertise of our incredible directors, Jessica Cohen and Amy Hogue, the amazing talent that our students have showcased, we are being recognized at a statewide level. That happened through Paradise Knoll. Excuse me. With the leadership from our wonderful principal, Jennifer Miller. The foundations laid in our classrooms have left, a lasting impression on our town as the highest rated elementary school here, and helped hold this community together with prestige. We are beyond proud of what we've built and the opportunities of a top-tier education that we have provided for our students, which is why we are so devastated to learn PK's doors will be forced to close in September due to funding failures, despite all of our merit and achievements. This is unacceptable, and it should unsettle every resident in this town, knowing our children will be paying the ultimate price. Additionally, the short notice of this news has left many of us frustrated and wondering why action was not taken years earlier to address the shortfalls of the Highlands Act. It may be too late for PK in Westbrook, but there is still time to right this ship before another school is at risk of the same fate. If the state continues to shortchange our district and let the health insurance industry single-handedly bankrupt our school systems across New Jersey, no school or program offered here is safe. Do not rest on your laurels thinking that you just dodged a bullet. This is not a Paradise Knoll problem. This is a New Jersey problem. And we all need to take action now. We encourage everyone to get involved and take this fight to the state level, to Trenton, to the legislators who hold our purse. We need to demand fair funding that puts our children first, regardless of what zip code they live in. Please join the advocacy groups on social media that were created to support Highlands Impact Aid, and let's band together to save our schools for our children. Thank you.
Mrs. Shawn Ryan-Smith.
Shawn Ryan-Smith, Elementary Vice President for the WMEA. Good evening, members of the Board of Education, administration, colleagues, and community members. My name is Shawn Ryan-Smith, and I am proud to serve as the Elementary Vice President of the WMEA. I stand before you tonight in support of our teachers and, most importantly, our students, as we face the difficult reality of a school closure. This marks the second elementary school closure in just 3 short years, and that reality weighs heavily on all of us. Let me begin by acknowledging what everyone in this room already feels. This is not just a logistical decision, it is an emotional one. A school is more than a building. It is a community, a place where children grow, where relationships are built, and where educators dedicate their time, energy, and hearts every single day. Our elementary schools in particular are more like families, close-knit communities where every child is known by name, supported, and valued. Our teachers are the foundation of that community. They are the ones who create stability for our students, especially during times of uncertainty. They are the steady presence, the familiar faces, and the trusted adults our children rely on. And right now they are being asked to navigate not only their own professional transitions, but also the emotional needs of their students and families. I want to be clear, our teachers are committed to making this transition as smooth as possible. They will continue to show up, to support, to guide, and to care, because that is who they are. But commitment does not eliminate impact. The closure will affect classroom dynamics, student learning environments, and the relationships that have taken years to build. It also impacts many others who are essential to our school communities. Our nurses, custodians, support staff, and all those who help create a safe, welcoming, and functional environment for our students each day. This is why we are asking for thoughtful, transparent, and collaborative planning moving forward. We urge the board and administration to provide clear communication and timelines so staff and families can prepare. Ensure equitable distribution of resources and class sizes in receiving schools. Include teacher voice in transition planning, because those closest to the classroom understand student needs best. Support the socio-emotional well-being of both students and staff throughout this process. Change of this magnitude cannot succeed without the people who implement it every day. Teachers are not just part of this transition, they are central to its success. To our community members and families, please know that our educators share your concerns. They care deeply about your children and are committed to continuing to provide a high-quality, supportive learning environment, no matter where that takes place. And to our teachers, we see you. We recognize the extra burden this places on you, and we stand with you. Your professionalism, resilience, and compassion do not go unnoticed. In closing, I ask that as decisions continue to be made, we keep people at the center, our students, our educators, and our community. In my role as WMEA Elementary Vice President, I respectfully request to remain included in discussions regarding decisions that directly implement our elementary staff. It is essential that the perspectives and voices of our educators are heard and thoughtfully considered throughout this process. I am committed to working collaboratively to support our teachers and help ensure the best possible outcomes for all stakeholders. Buildings may close, but the strength of a district lies in how we support one another throughout moments like this. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Mrs. Justine Lorenzo Healy.
So for the sake of my children and my friends, I'm going to regulate my emotions and not say what I want to say. This is heartbreaking and disgusting that we are closing another school. And you don't have to answer this, but we're bold-faced lying to this entire community by sitting here and standing here and saying we're not closing a third elementary school within the next 2 years. You were told about this closure when you closed Westbrook that Paradise Knoll was on the chopping block, and that if you didn't close it then, within 3 years a third one was going to be closed. So let's tell the truth. Also, you say that you're going to get back to any questions and comments that this district and parents and families have, that you'll email us back. I'm still waiting for my questions to be answered from 2020. This is a failure for our teachers and staff who have become family. I also heard that there was pay cuts and longer class periods being implemented possibly in the future. We're not going to have the staff for these children with the overburdened classroom sizes and everything that's going on. So you also need to look into that as well. You're talking about gaining $3 million back by closing Paradise Knoll. You're going to lose more than that when parents start pulling their kids from the district. You're going to put 5th grade students possibly in middle school. My daughter, who is not going through puberty, is not going to be put into classrooms with children that are. That age range is inappropriate, and so is 8th grade and 18-year-old high school students. Your concerns in this district really concern me as a parent and a community member, because those are the things that we should be looking at. You're not going to have a district if those things happen. Another thing that really concerns me is I understand that some kids, it's a lot of work to get into PCTI and other schools. We've talked for years about trying to get our kids to stay in districts and make the best of it. If you have a good kid, they make the best of the schools that we have here. And the kids that are staying in West Milford are doing amazing. So why are we spending millions sending them out of district? We don't send them to Pope John. Why are we sending them to PCTI? Why aren't we revisiting that program? Another thing is you're worried about losing money, okay, with these 5th grade and 8th grade implementations. how many, you don't have to answer this is rhetorical. How many HIB investigations does this district have, and how many lawsuits have we settled for bullying? Why are we going to implement putting 5th graders into the middle school and 8th graders into the high school? How many lawsuits are we looking at then? How much money can we save by not doing that? And now for a more emotional statement, my children, my school, Paradise Knoll, is family. Those teachers and staff and parents have been with me through pregnancies, marriages, divorces, milestones of my children. For you to close it is a great disservice to all these parents. Those teachers, staff, and parents are family to us, and every memory attached to my child's childhood is attached to that school. All of my best friends and the friends that I've met have been through that school. You're taking my daughter specifically, I can't speak for anyone else, and removing her from every female girlfriend that she has made in that school since kindergarten, because you're keeping neighborhoods together, and you're putting her in a separate school with she knows 2 boys. They're the only one in the same neighborhood. So every girl that she's made friends with since kindergarten, they're now separated indefinitely until middle school. How is that okay? Who's providing, you're gonna provide long-term counseling for this, I hope, because she was devastated tonight over that. You said you sent an email to Trenton and you contacted Senator Sweeney. Was that 3 weeks ago, or have you been doing this for years when you knew that the schools were closing? Can you answer that right now? And I've told this board before that I know several assemblymen and senators in Trenton. Why wasn't anyone made aware so I could contact them and rally them here? I'm big on the religious freedom fight in Trenton. I could have had the assemblymen and the senators here. I know Senators or Assemblywoman Sweeney knows several of them. I could have had Michael Testa here, Jamal Hawley. Why weren't the parents notified? Also, I want to know if the Board of Ed has any ties to any other of the schools that were not closed. Can you answer that in an email privately? Okay, my time's up, but I'll email you the rest of my concerns. Thank you.
Dr. Goff?
Good evening. My name is Marissa Goff. I'm an active community member. I'm a part of multiple entities in this town, but for tonight, I'm here speaking solely on my own accord. All parents want the same goal for their child, having the opportunity to succeed in life. A good education offers access to basic skills, co-curriculars, athletics, and special programs. This helps prepare them for adulthood. For many, this creates college readiness. Most young parents choose where they settle down based on school rankings, space, and access to local businesses, as well as their place of work. Many parents choose areas like West Milford because of its appeal. It's a safe place to raise a family. In the last 8 years, those perks have slowly been stripped away due to 8 years of cuts from S2, which no longer exists, significant loss of state aid, rising insurance premiums, transportation costs, and the cost of programs. The West Milford School District is being dismantled. Our children, including my own, were redistricted only 3 years ago, put into bigger classrooms with longer bus rides. That wasn't enough. We had to cut media specialists, guidance counselors, and teachers. That wasn't enough. We've had 3 years of tax levies, this most recent one being projected to be 5.92%. That is still not enough. Ask any parent if raising our taxes could save our elementary school. They would say, do it. But that's not the case. I've said to our administration, West Milford is like a sinking ship, and I think I heard that analogy from Assemblywoman Sweeney tonight. We have a few holes that are being patched up, but our ship is still slowly sinking. More recently, I picture our town more like an area being hit after a major storm. The community comes together to rebuild. If storms hit that same town again, and again, guess what happens? They lose the will and they leave. The main issue I have as a parent, resident, and taxpayer is that these cuts in school closings do not fix the bigger issue. Starting a foundation does not fix the bigger issue. We are simply putting a Band-Aid on it. We are plugging up the hole. You cannot close a school and cause major layoffs every 3 years. You do two things. You rip that Band-Aid off, and you go to the source. We are one, and this is kind of beating a dead horse at this point, we are one of 88 towns in the Highlands region, and 100% in the Highlands Act. In January, the Highlands Impact Aid Now movement was created by a group in Jefferson to bring awareness to fair funding for these Highlands towns. If the board is okay with it, I have a couple flyers I would like to leave from the Highlands Impact Now. I will leave it here on the table, if that's okay with all of you. Let me be clear for those that don't know. We do not want to revoke the Highlands Act. We are simply asking for fair funding, a clean water promise. We should not be held to the same standards as townships that do not have land restrictions like we do. This limits our own ratables and falls on the municipalities, falls on our township. Assemblywoman Ora Dunn, Senator Bucco are pushing to get 2 bills passed through the Senate that is listed here on this flyer. This will bring more state aid to the Highland towns specifically for the schools, more than a measly 6% of what Dr. Kitchen said is already a lower amount. Towns like us have seen a $10 million loss in the last 8 years. Without more state aid, it doesn't matter what we trim, we will not make ends meet. We will never be sustainable. Let's be clear on what state aid is for those that aren't sure. It's a portion of our income taxes coming back from the state to support our schools. These formulas are sending aid to other towns within our county. It's disproportionate, and it needs to change now. We need our administration to reconsider who is the face of this movement. That doesn't mean that you haven't done a lot already. I know you've done your letters, I know you've done your phone calls, and I know you've done your meetings behind closed doors. But you have to be the voice, and we will echo it. It creates more urgency than a few of the local West Milford parents, including myself. I suggest speaking with your lawyer, changing your bylaws, and being able to conduct some type of lobbying. We see other towns doing it. It's time that we stop being supportive and take action. Specifically in your bylaw, 0169.02 under social networking, please look through the School Ethics Act and see if there's something that can be changed within that to allow us some type of lobbying so you can be the face of this movement. My voice is not enough. Jefferson's voice is not enough. We all need these towns within the Highlands to come together to make noise. This affects every single elementary school, regardless of the one that closes. This affects every student and family. This affects teachers and staff members, good ones that we should not be parting with when there is a teacher shortage. To the administration, get the Highlands Impact Aid now in the West Milford schools. Consider it a civic engagement day for any student K-12. Share those Highland Hold challenges. Get us down to Trenton. To the community, be the voice. Flood your social media. Use those hashtags like Highlands Impact Aid Now, Highlanders, the number 4, Highlanders for Fair Funding, and tag our governor, tag the local assemblymen and women, and our Commissioner of Education. Help us find the solution, not just listing the problems. Off of that, I do have 2 follow-up questions if I have time. The only thing I didn't see mentioned in the presentation was about the Climb program at PK. So if you're able to speak about tonight, that would be great. I know I didn't see it directly listed. I wanted to see if it could be discussed during a public meeting in front of everybody before there's a vote that takes place, because I know the Climb program has already had to be moved when Westbrook closed. That was my first question. My second one, my follow-up over the preliminary budget, I spoke greatly about the insurance premiums and the rising costs. I'm not going to go into that whole thing again. However, one thing I do want to mention based off of last, because it's being mentioned again and again, the rising cost of insurance premiums. I don't remember the exact number, but it's in the millions, the rising cost compared to even just last year alone. Please don't kill me, teachers. Please consider in the future moving away from the state funds. The only reason I say that, and this is coming from someone who has multiple medical conditions, I need a good insurance plan. is that moving away from the state plan has saved larger districts up to $1 million. Not to say they're going towards an insurance that's not as good. Moving away from like the NJ Direct 10 plans, moving something like maybe like an Aetna. That is what I have moved to, and I have the same exact coverage, the same exact providers, the same co-pays, and I saved my husband's place of work thousands of dollars per employee. Something to consider if that can help us with that millions of dollars down the road. Instead of kicking the can down the road, you can still have that conversation with your employees, collaborate with your staff, make sure it fits their needs. But if that's something that could fix this long-term plan, if we're not getting more state aid, please consider it. Move away from the state plan, I'm really sorry. I'm gonna leave the flyers here.
Mrs. Stacy Van Dyke?
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to just introduce myself. My name is Stacy Van Dyke. I live in West Milford. I have 2 children that have been going to the school district. My son graduated last June from the high school, so I have lots of experience. My daughter was at Westbrook when she was in kindergarten when they had to close, and I relate to a lot of you, so I don't want to cry. But anyway, I can understand that tonight's meeting has a huge impact on families, and that you feel sometimes like there's nothing you can do. Most recently, I think, because I've been working in town for 23 years, I've lived up here for 16 years. I grew up in Ringwood, so I kind of know like what some of the local townships deal with. And I listen to a lot of people. I think it's important you can learn from others. And I totally think it's possible that you can join with one another to help each other. Sometimes it seems like you might not agree with someone, they might have a different point of view than you, but I think you can act together to get the things that we need for our township and our community, and mostly our children. So I'm going to read a little bit of what I wrote. I consider myself a positive and proactive parent and community member, and I'm here tonight on behalf of others in the same position as myself. I have always been the type of person that thinks if more people join together for a cause, then they take action, then the more support needed can be given. That's why I'm here tonight. I'm showing up to ask and to show everyone how we can help. That was a question that some of you guys seem to have. What else can we do? I recently established a Facebook page called Highlanders for Fair Funding. I'm following Jefferson Township's lead on this, because I did attend their rally that they held in their gym, and I also attended a media production, or a media assembly meeting that they were able to attend, that their superintendent was able to speak to the state assembly. So I went to that as well. And I asked some questions. I met their superintendent, I met their mayor, and I know our mayor as well, and Dr. Kitchen, I've never met you, but nice to meet you. So I think that Jefferson, they took an initiative. First it was a mom and a dad who thought like they wanted to do something, and they're using their intelligence and their social media and their capabilities and their friends and their family, and they're trying to spread the word, which is making it all the way to people at the state level, such as Assemblywoman Dunn and Ms. Sweeney, who's here tonight. I think that if we can collaborate in a transparent way and all come together, that the communities can actually help get the information to the state, but like with more force. Because although our Board of Education can act on certain level, and then a Highlander Education Foundation can do certain things, maybe PTA can do other things, but then it revolves around all of us trying to come together. So the thing about sharing things on social media and getting involved in certain things like the water challenge and other things, if you can try and proactively share those things with other people, even in neighboring towns, like my brother, he lives in Ringwood, and that's where I grew up. So people that I know that are in the school district there, their school district is having the same type of problems. We all fall into the Highlands region, and it's great that we can restore water for the communities in other towns that don't have water sources like we do up here. But I feel like our children shouldering that burden and our districts just losing more and more money and having to make drastic changes that affect families. I just feel like there has to be something more that we can do together. So I invite you to either offer me some help, because I'm just like, as I said, just a parent and a local business owner who is not affiliated with any of these organizations, but I think I could help to bring people together. Okay.
So no one else is signed up, so we're going to open the podium to anyone else who would like to speak.
Hello, I am Caitlin Babcock. I live at 13 Post Place, and I am here as the CPAC chair. So now that we know that it is Paradise Knoll that is closing, I know Ms. Goff mentioned it, but this is the building that houses the CLIMB program. This is the district's ABA program, serving many of our students with autism and other complex needs. I want to start by acknowledging that the decisions that were made were not easy, and there are many real factors that Dr. Kitchen mentioned tonight, and I know that they have mentioned in many previous board meetings. But this decision is a little bit different because Paradise Knoll is not just another school. It currently houses an environment designed for students who rely on structure, predictability, and consistency in order to access their education. For many of these students, this environment is not just where they learn, it is where they feel safe, regulated, and successful, and that cannot just be replicated overnight. As CPAC, we want to make sure that this transition is done correctly and thoughtfully, because for many students, transitions are not minor inconveniences, they are major disruptions. Students in the CLIMB program, although along with many others in the district, including those with anxiety, autism, ADHD, and other needs, may struggle significantly with a change of this magnitude. Even students without a formal diagnosis can be deeply impacted. And I think it is also important to notice and acknowledge the timing of this decision. It is being made during a time of year, April, that is meant to raise awareness and understanding of these exact challenges. That irony should not be lost on any of us, autism awareness. So the question now is not whether this is happening, it is how it will be handled. And I want to be very clear, whatever plans you currently have in place, they're probably not enough quite yet. We probably need to expand on them, double them even, and they need to be detailed. They need to be communicated clearly and consistently to the families. Parents need to understand what this transition will look like for their individual child, not just in general. And not in August or September, but in the weeks and months leading up to it. What supports will be in place? How will students be prepared? What opportunities will there be for gradual exposure, familiarization, it's a long word, and relationship building? Because for many of these students, especially our CLIMB students, walking into a new building without proper preparation is not just a failed transition plan, it is a trigger. Your staff will be one of your greatest assets in this process, and not just your special education staff, all staff. So teachers, gen ed, special ed, aides, counselors, related service providers, they see students in real moments. They understand their triggers, their coping strategies, their needs, and you need their voices at the table when these plans are being made. Because a plan that works on paper is not the same for a plan that works for our children, and I think a lot of the parents know that. It will take intentional effort, it will take transparency, and it will take a willingness to also truly partner with families. And as CPAC, we do not just want to stand on the side, we want to work with you. We are ready to be a part of those conversations, plannings, problem solving, to make sure that not just the students in special education, but all students are supported through the transition. Thank you.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak? So you can just line up as the person before you is finishing up, just head over there.
Hi, I'm Heather Katz, 27 Hilltop Road. So here's my thing. I hear what you're saying, and it sounds like the plan as of now is there's no plan. That's what it seems like. We don't have answers to questions, which I understand this is fairly new, but we need answers. So I have a third grader who is dropping out of school now because his school is closing. He doesn't want to go to a new school. He doesn't want a new teacher. He doesn't want to lose his friends. He's going to learn what he needs to learn from YouTube. Okay. I need to have a plan to tell him. So I need to be able to say, you're going to this school. I need him to be able to know on this day, we're going to go view this school. You're going to walk through it. You're going to do your bus route, basically like a kindergarten orientation. Because all he knows is PK. So if we're taking these kids from everything they know, then we need to have a plan in place. We can't wait till August. We can't get a school assignment or anything in July. We need answers ASAP. So ideally, by the end of this month, we know what school we're going to, who's going to the school, and then there's also a plan in place for you're going to go view the school here. I also want to go walk around the school because I'm not just willy-nilly sending my kids somewhere where I don't know. I don't know any of the staff. I don't know anything about any other school other than PK. So I understand you don't have answers and you can't answer them, but we need a plan in place and we need it now. So getting back to us is great, but ideally this should have been in place. You should have had some sort of plan before you announce a school closure. So if you know that a school is closing, then you need to have the details on where are these kids going. Because we can't just have them lost in the sauce where we don't know what's happening. So I understand you're not going to answer the question, but sooner rather than later. So school can't end without a plan being in place. We can't leave our school for the last time and not know where we're going or how this is going to work. So in your planning, I would also like to just throw out there that I'd also like if they can know the bus route. Where are our stops the same? Or how long is he going to be on the bus? Because right now, like I don't want him to be on the bus for 45 minutes when there's not a need for that. So I think we need to have a bus route in place. There needs to be an orientation in place. And also, you're breaking up kids that all they ever know is together. So I understand that our whole school can't go to another school, but there's got to be a way where you take into account, you know, if there's one girl on one side of 23, you can't really exclude her from all the other kids that she knows. Like, there has to be a way to work this out. Not only are we losing our teachers, we're losing our school. That is everything that these kids know and love. Our school is more than just a school. We're a family, we're a community, everyone knows everyone. We do community events, and I know you say that this decision wasn't taken lightly, but you keep saying to minimize impact. I personally feel like you're not taking into account the impact that it is making on us. So while you're trying to minimize impact, I feel like you're minimizing our feelings in our school closure, because we are affected, and this was a very quick decision, and it doesn't seem like while you're doing what's best for the town or the community, I feel like you're also alienating our school and what's best for our school. So I think that we need to really develop a good plan and figure out how this is going to work, because our kids need to know where they're going. We can't keep, they all know that their school's closing at this point, or they're going to know tomorrow, because the majority of them do know. So we need to be able to answer their questions. So tomorrow when my child asks me what school am I going to, I would like to have an answer sometime before the end of the month, if that's possible.
Good evening. My name is Maria DeRocha. I live at 58 Bergen Drive in Crescent Park. I didn't have a lot of time to prepare a speech. A lot of people spoke about their feelings already, so that's well known. I've been sitting there crying. I apologize for everyone. Besides feelings, I feel like we all feel like this was sprung on us, right? Like my daughter goes to Paradise Knoll. She's gonna have probably 1 or 2 friends from the neighborhood in her grade that she's gonna go with. Everybody else is in different grade. But besides the feelings, I would like to say that I think that underfunding of our budget should be a top priority every day. You should be emailing Trenton every day. You should be telling us to email Trenton every day. I will do this every day. I will send 20 spam emails to every congresswoman and congressman, because in 6 years, and I have only 1 kid, 1, but in 6 years, people who have infants right now, they will have what, classrooms of 45? They will be in trailers outside of not, 1 building, because this will keep happening, because like somebody already said, you're putting band-aids on stuff, you're not fixing it. And I want to address the board that I understand this is not your fault that we're underfunded, but I feel like this is your fault that you haven't raised this to until, maybe this is my fault, I haven't been to BOE meetings before. This is definitely 100% my fault that I have, but we haven't really received this explanation, a pretty PowerPoint that says, we're grossly underfunded people, let's come together, let's fix this. We haven't been told this. Maybe we would have done this 3 years ago. And for the parent, the last thing, I don't want to make it 5 minutes, I'm sorry, I'm horrible at speeches. Parents, don't let this fade away. Don't let this be the topic of the week or for the month and let this fade away. Let's fight for this. I expect an email from Board of Ed every week to say, let's do this, let's go to Trenton, let's email this person, let's email that person, let's go to White House if we have to. I'm driving. Thank you.
I just want to follow up with.
So you have to wait for everyone to speak first before you follow up. You can come up once everyone's had a chance to speak.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
You're welcome, Mrs. Seeley.
Hi, how are you? My name is Brendan Kenny. I live at 280 Highcrest Drive. I have 3 children. My youngest will be entering kindergarten this upcoming year. I just wanted to say thank you. I appreciate the explanation. I feel like it was very thorough. I'm really disappointed in 3 things today. The closing of another school, the turnout for this meeting. I really thought that the closing of the school would prompt more people to be here. And then perhaps most important, the state funding formula. If you simply Google the state funding formula, you find that 40% of all of our state aid goes to only 10 schools. That's 40% of all of New Jersey's state aid goes to 10 schools. $1.2 billion goes to Newark schools. In Passaic County alone, $585 million goes to Patterson, $272 million goes to Passaic, $98 million goes to Clifton, and West Milford gets $5.4 million. Those numbers are really hard to comprehend when you look at it, and that is probably what is most frustrating as a taxpayer. We all know how high our taxes are in this town, but as a taxpayer, and I think we really need to focus a lot of our anger and our frustrations with the way that this state formula is funded. As was mentioned earlier, unite to kind of make a change, to work together. I've started pushing things out on social media, which a lot of other parents in town have been doing as well, and just encourage others to do that. And then finally, a shout out to our teachers who always do more with less, always.
Good evening. Catherine Weiss Connors, 37 Highland Drive. I'm going to echo some more of what Caitlin Babcock has already said, but as a parent of a special education student currently attending Maple Road Elementary School, I'm here to express my concern regarding the future of our special education program and how the potential changes may impact all of our children. Many of these students face significant challenges, and I'm not talking just about the ABA program, I'm talking about the entire program. Many of these students face significant challenges with transitions in their daily routines. For some, a change in school placement can be particularly disruptive and detrimental to their progress. The Maple Road community has created a supportive and inclusive environment where our children feel accepted and are able to thrive. While I do not doubt the commitment of other schools, our children have already established routines, services, relationships. The nursing staff knows our children, the administration there also. It is essential to their success that we know what's going to happen. At this time, I would like to ask for clarity regarding the timeline for any decisions affecting these programs. Being told that we will hear from our case managers at a later date is not acceptable. Families need timely and transparent communication so that we can adequately prepare our children for any potential changes. You are not home with them every single night when they come home crying. You are not there for them when the temper tantrums happen or anything like that over a daily change of a substitute in the classroom. A change of a school is totally different. We respectfully ask for more immediate information so we can support our children through what could be a very challenging transition. Thank you very much for your time.
Hi, I'm Sherry Orlando. I am the media specialist at APSHUA PK for 1 day a week, and Marshall Hill. I've been in all three schools for the last 3 years. I really am just here to address the teachers, my fellow colleagues. I faced this 3 years ago. I was ripped from my position of 10 years as a media specialist in a school that I loved. I was with middle schoolers for 20 years, and it was a huge change, and it was devastating, to be honest. And I now have embraced the environment of elementary school and the students there, and I know that the change is really hard, especially if you've been with your fellow colleagues, your friends, the relationships that you've made with your students and your staff. And I'm empathizing with you, really. I'm just telling you that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and focusing on the kids, really just focusing on the kids is what helped me, and understanding and getting to know like young kids and seeing them grow every year. And I do love it now, and which is not something I was expecting. So I just want to say that I empathize with you. I was fortunate enough to get rehired, even though I was ripped and I thought I was having to leave the district altogether. And I also want to recognize Mrs. Sinisi, who just got here, and I know that a lot of the APSHUA staff really have embraced her, and I have too, and I think she's a wonderful principal, and wherever you go, they're gonna love you, okay? So good luck to you. Thank you.
My name is Chris Mallon, 14 Post Place in Falmouth. I'll keep this short because I gotta get my kids to bed. I want to thank the teachers from Paradise Knoll, specifically Amanda at the front desk, who's always helped me out whenever I called in. Ms. Francesca, who got my son from reading 2 words to 200-page books a day in second grade. He has now read 13 of the Diary of the Wimpy Kid books, which is probably more books than I've read in my life. as has already been said, this is a little bit of a shock and this is a little bit out of nowhere. I don't need 4 text messages and 3 phone calls a day about the high school play. And then have to find out about this because my wife went to a Scholastic book fair a week ago to find out about the school closing. Now, I'm teaching my kids accountability, so I'm taking accountability right now and saying that I should have been more involved and I should have learned more about this beforehand. But it's ridiculous that we all got to learn about this now, and then we got to come out here now when this was on the thing, what, 3 years ago? Come on, guys. Like, and I know you're not going to answer any questions and all that, and I know this is bureaucratic. Keep my words to myself. But, yeah, that's where I'm at. I'm sorry to the teachers that are going to lose their jobs. You have helped my children tremendously. I am extremely sad that my son, who's starting kindergarten next year, is not going to start at this school. I am very sad that our classrooms are going to get to at least 21, which honestly I don't even think is going to be the case. I think it's going to be more than that. I want exact details on what is happening, where my bus stop's going to be, where my kids are going to be. I want a detailed walkthrough of the schools that my kids are going to go to. I want to know where they're going to be, what their teachers are going to be, what classroom they're going to be in. I'm very specific with these things because I'm a former first responder. So you guys need to get us that data, and I don't want it a week before they start, to be extremely clear. I want this within the next 30 days of where our kids are going to be. So that's where I'm at on this. Thank you for your time.
Hello, my name is Nicole Schulter-Strauss, 695 East Shore Road. A lot of my talking points were already gone over as I posted them on the public forum. I greatly empathize with a lot of things that everybody's going through. My youngest goes to Upper Greenwood Lake. He transitioned over from Maple Road last year as a special education child. A lot of the things that have not, or some of the things that have not been discussed is some of the allocations that are the allocated funds that are not going, have not been discussed. Earlier this year, we did not have running water in our existing school, and as you have noted in these schools, all of our schools are about 50 years or older, and you have not factored into the unavoidable cost of replacing 60-year-old plumbing systems in the remaining buildings, and higher maintenance costs for our busing fleet, and also the upper cost of driving those buses, and also reallocating all of these children and dispersing those children that obviously those children live within proximity to each other, yet you're dispersing them to other schools inaccessibly. Do you have more subs for these buses? As my son's bus, even one child being added to that bus has allocated him to the bus being 15 minutes more. Since he has been in this district, our bus has been about 45 minutes later, which has made me have to redo my job at least twice now in the last 2 years. So many people within this audience are going to have to redo their jobs and everything else like that. So even not taking that into consideration, this is a horrendous thing for any working parent to have to do, despite all the other things that they're facing. I've also experienced firsthand having to add that into my own life. Recently, the buses have been breaking down. You haven't allocated that into your cost consideration. Also that the buses are worn and everything else like that. Coming from the town of Bloomingdale, my high school was allocated to a different district, which is Morris County. So knowing that the high school and having to do that, other counties have had to do that. As others have stated, this is not just our county, this is not just our city, this is a statewide thing. So just one school being closed, 2 schools being closed, how much is it going to be until all of a sudden we have no high school to go to, and we're going to have to go out of county, out of district, and everything else like that. If our special education, if we even have 5 to 8 students being allocated out of district, that's going to cost us an excessive amount of funds, in excess of that $3 million. Please take that into consideration. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Erica McCauley, live at 33 Oak Drive. My daughter Addison, sorry, I'm very emotional. My daughter Addison is currently a 4th grader at Paradise Knoll, and she is very upset. She has gone through so much in the last 2 years. We had a tragic loss in our family that she's had to deal with, and she's just a young child trying to make sense of something no child should ever go through. Since then, she's had her struggles, and through all of it, her school, Paradise Knoll, has been her safe place. The teachers and staff, and this amazing woman right here, Principal Miller, have shown up for her and for our family in ways I cannot fully put into words. They understand her, they support her, they've helped her give her stability when her world was turned upside down. And just as important, this is where she has built her friendships. These are the same children she has grown up with since kindergarten. They are part of her comfort, her routine, and her sense of belonging. Closing the school means she won't just lose a building, it means she will be separated from friends who have been by her side through everything. That is not something small to a child, that is everything. You cannot take a child who's already hurting and expect them to start over. A new school, new environment, new people, and believe it won't affect them at all. It will. And while I understand that budgets and numbers are part of these decisions, what this feels like is that the focus is on finances, not on the emotional well-being of the children who will be impacted. These are not just numbers on a page. These are real children with real lives, real struggles, and real needs. My daughter is one of them. This school, sorry, I did that already. I'm asking you to truly think about what this decision means, not just financially, but emotionally for these children. Because once you take that sense of safety and belonging away, you cannot just give it back. Do not treat this like a simple transition. These children will need support. They will need consistency. They will need familiar faces, emotional resources, and a plan that actually considers what they're going through, not just where they are going. Because for children like my daughter, this is not just a change of schools, it's another loss. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Kate Romeo. As many of you know, I sat on this Board of Education for 6 wonderful years. I am a human being that really, truly appreciates and brings transparency. Human being. I make mistakes. Everyone does. I'm not here to be malicious. I am not here to point fingers. But I will say that a lot of mistakes have been made. While I was on the board, and definitely after, and I want to start by just saying, you know, no one has mentioned it yet, but we really should have began this by thanking our mayor, Michelle Gill. Our mayor has worked to keep our property taxes at 0. So I know that I'm struggling. I'm sure many of us are struggling to pay our bills right now financially, right? And the fact that our property taxes have not gone up in 10 years is awesome, right? No, your property taxes haven't gone up because it's stayed at a 0. So you need to go to the council meetings and watch what's happening with the budget there. And then you need to watch these meetings. And as a board member, I know that as a former board member, I know that your taxes went up, but not your property taxes, your school tax. We could talk about that after if anyone wants an explanation, and I can show you. I want to get through my speech, because I will be the first one to kick out of here. I'd like to begin, like I said, by thanking Michelle Dale for her leadership in maintaining a 0% increase in property taxes. I'd also like to encourage the Board of Education to work collaboratively with her, as you have not done that yet. Assemblywoman Sweeney, welcome aboard. Please continue to be a strong voice for our community. We need women like you. Tonight, what you don't see here are the faces of our children. Those beautiful, beautiful faces who are directly impacted by the possibility of a district that is about to go under. And it could be in the next 10 years, because this is not over. These decisions are not just numbers on a page, they affect real people, our children, real families that you see sitting in front of you, and the hearts of this community. I wish I had water. To the teachers who may be facing a reduction in force, you are talented, dedicated professionals. You will land on your feet. And while this may feel overwhelming to you, you will continue to make a difference wherever you go. Who knows, this may be a real blessing for you. But there are serious questions that still need answers. There's a rumor that you're cutting supervisors at the high school. Is that true? Is that in the slides? Are you cutting other high school staff? What other cuts are being considered that the public is not yet aware of? For this year? Next year? Where is the plan so that we can start helping and working together? You never allow that. Everything at this table is a secret. That's baloney. This doesn't need to be a secret. Look at all the faces in this room that want to go to the state and fight, that have wanted to write letters. You haven't allowed that. I'm deeply concerned about the lack of transparency surrounding the proposed school closure of Paradise Knoll. At recent Board of Education meetings, key information appears to be missing, or it's presented without its full context. And when we ask questions, like I just asked you, Dr. Kitchen, about the supervisors, is that something that you're looking to cut at the high school? You absolutely can answer me, because there's no law that says that you can't, but you won't.
We did present that there will be an administrative restructure, and those conversations need to take place with all of the individuals directly affected before they take place with the community.
Specifically, when we looked at the slide tonight about PK, and when we looked at the slide with the numbers of how much is savings, someone mentioned it before, the PK vestibule? Well, PK is the same vestibule as what other schools? UGL, Aptua, and Maple Road. So the only vestibule that's different, Melissa, right, is Marshall Hill. So if you want to speak to that, you can. So yeah.
So you can't actually, do you want to say?
It's a neutral policy. It was informed at the beginning of the meeting.
He wasn't here when I was a board member.
It's a neutral policy that's being applied to everyone. If it's differently applied to people, it gets into an issue of infringing upon your First Amendment rights, So by applying it neutrally to everyone, it's consistent across the board. Ms. Romeo would have the opportunity, after everyone has made their public comments, to go up again for an additional 2 minutes, as was explained. This is the board's policy. It was amended today to, incorporate more opportunities for the community to speak, but it's going to be consistently applied to every single speaker who's gone up. Always has been.
It's every board meeting, just to make that clear.
Fill that form out before I start my time. So, my name is Jason Field, 15 Greendale Drive in Oak Ridge. I had one student that went to PK that's now at Mackin, and I have a 4th grader in PK. I've been a public servant for over 20 years. I currently am working without a contract. We haven't had a raise in 5 years. I understand that the healthcare cost is an ever-rising concern. I don't see that the board has done anything to mitigate that. This is now the 2nd school that we're closing in 3 years. There will be another, and then there will be another. And then eventually we will redistrict with regional schools. That is what's going to happen going forward. Some steps need to be taken by this board to try to mitigate that and extend those closings as far out as possible into the future. The fact that we have a 22% rise in the healthcare cost of the staff of the school, that's not unforeseen. It went up 13 to 17% last year. If you're in state health benefits, as the district looked into leaving state health benefits. I work in Jersey City. We left state health benefits 18 years ago, partly because we were told that state health benefits were going away, which it never did. But our city just, in March, changed healthcare plans to equal to or better than coverage. We went from Blue Cross to Aetna. The city saved $30 million. Okay, so there are cost-saving options available. I'm sure that we can probably find the $1.3 million to keep PK open this year, if we care to look. So, thank you for your time.
Good evening. My name is Christina Soma. I live on 56 Timber Lane, Newfoundland. Both my daughters went to PK, and I must say, and I'm sure all the elementary parents believe that their elementary school is the best, but ours is really the best. We're all good. Okay. So my question to you, I'm a fellow educator. My question is to you, is the aim to keep it at 25 students since we're putting more students in these schools? Is that the aim? And is there a cap? Because I've had a class of 35 students, and as much as I tried, I'd hate to admit it, not a lot of learning was going on. So if we have a cap, I'd like to know that number, because I would really hate to see my 3rd grader go into a class of 35 students, because I know firsthand that it's hard. Okay. Next, I'm also an educator, and I have to be at school, and it's 40 minutes away. I have a bus stop that's a daycare because they open early. So I was wondering if that is also still available, the bus stop at Bright Beginnings. Shout out to Bright Beginnings, great place. Next question, when West Milford decides to push 5th grade, because, future outcomes, possibilities, meaning it's in the works. When West Milford has to push 5th grade to middle school and 8th grade to high school, will there be extra personnel around to monitor? Will they be in a separate section? Because it's not appropriate for those ages to be together. And that's it. I just want to take time out to Ms. Miller, and I want to thank you for everything. I am not an emotional person. I'm very logical. And unfortunately, the numbers are showing that to us. But they're showing it us a little too late. When we started the budget or looking at it, we should have known about this not a week ago, but when it first started. So logically, yes, but it still hurts, and thank you for everything.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak? For the first, obviously, comments. Okay, so now we will open it back up to the second round. You can come back up for 2 minutes.
Thank you. Like I said, I served on the board, and during that time, I consistently advocated for collaboration, transparency, and stakeholder involvement. I urge the board to bring family, staff, and community members together to work through challenges openly and respectfully. Just like Michelle Dale, I have seen ask this current to do things like go to the rally, even the one held in Jefferson. There was a Donuts with Done. Not one of you was there. There's a lot of things that have happened. In that spirit, when I sat in that seat and we were asking the community to come together, not fight us, because at that time I thought we were doing everything we can do. 2 dedicated moms, 2 community members came together to establish the Highlander Education Foundation. It had big plans, bigger than what Jefferson's doing or any other town I've ever seen in New Jersey, and they still do. They have an effort intended to support West Milford students and strengthen our schools. Unfortunately, this board's chosen to not support that foundation, including declining, most of you, declining to participate even at the most basic level, to be a member of it. But you would be a member of your child's PTA or PTO, but not the Highlander Foundation Education. And we can go back, all this is in public meeting. I paid the dues, as did one other member. And at that time, the resident had asked the attorney and most other people, and one member on the board wasn't here, in fairness. Everyone else chose not to do it. I also believe that public trust depends on accountability at every single level. Questions have been raised in the community regarding residency and eligibility to serve on this Board of Education. Where do you live? Given the importance of the decisions being made about our schools and our children's future, I believe it's reasonable for the public to ask for clarity and confirmation on the addresses put on your disclosure reports. Who's paying taxes to live in this town and who is not? Because you should not be voting. It's time. It's time for transparency. What do we need to know for this upcoming school year? Our community deserves clarity, honesty, and a full understanding of what lies ahead. If you don't live in the town of West Milford, you should have recused yourself from being on the Board of Ed 2 years ago when you moved.
I just had a couple of quick points I wanted to bring back up. Do I need to state my name or it's not necessary?
Just state your name.
Justine Lorenzo Healy. Okay. I just had a parent from Maple Road. My daughter did not go to Maple Road, but a parent texted me very upset about the meeting she's watching remotely. She said that there was a direct lie on that PowerPoint, that class sizes were expected to be up to 21 students. She said her child's Maple Road class already has 23 in one and 24 in the other. She also stated that the same holds true for her daughter's kindergarten class in Maple Road. So there needs to be transparency for the teachers of Apshaw, Maple Road, or wherever our children are going to be redirected to, so that the teachers can decide if that's something they want to take on, number one, and number two, so that we're not lied to about the class sizes for our kids. So 21, I don't know where you pulled that number from, because she's saying there's already 23 or 24 in the class. And that they were told they needed an aide if any more came in. So I think we need to be transparent, like Kate said. Also, PK used to have 6th grade in their school. I would be more comfortable with you moving the students in 6th grade back to an elementary school rather than putting inappropriate and conflicting ages together. I want to know how long that the bus rides will take, as another parent stated. I need that in an email. And I'm sure the whole community can agree with me that if anything were to change, how much would the taxpayers be paying to reopen Paradise Knoll if that was on the table? If it was even possible. Again, I'm very concerned about the Trenton aspect of this, because a lot of parents are new to the district. A lot of parents weren't around during the COVID arguments with the board and the state involvement. If we had known years ago, 3 years ago specifically, we would have been handling this for you. And if Paradise Knoll's PTA knew that there was all of these projects to be fixed, we would have been fundraising. We had no idea that there was any issues other than the heat. Nobody told us. Something could have been done about it then. And again, transparency, I'm going to reiterate this. You knew 3 years ago when you closed Westbrook that you had to close PK. You could have let everyone know then so we could have done something and today wouldn't be happening. Okay, and be transparent about the next school you're closing within the next 2 years. Tell the public.
Can you imagine what I was like in school growing up? I was that person who was raising my hand, in case anybody ever wondered. So again, my name is Marissa Goff. There were 2 questions actually that a community member sent me yesterday and I completely forgot to ask. So now that I had the presentation, I wanted to come up and follow up on that, and I actually have concerns about it as well. If it's something that you can bring up again in a presentation during a public meeting and not when it's already something that has to be voted on without the public input, it would be greatly appreciated. The one thing, and I know it's been brought up numerous times, is, and I know this is not for next year, I know that was in your presentation, is the 5th to Macapin and 8th to high school. I know it's not for next year, we know it's happening. Just like how we knew Westbrook was closing, just like how we knew PK was closing. My immediate thought is rip the Band-Aid off. I'm just gonna say that. Anyway, with that said, with bus routes, is there any way to do a staggered start time for these younger kids, like a 5th and 6th grade and a 7th and 8th grade, rather than the 5th graders being on a bus with 8th graders? Because yes, there's a problem, but is there a potential solution? Staggering the bus times, I don't even know if that's possible. I do hear some talking in the background. But is that something to consider, where maybe for, elementary starts at one time, middle school starts, say, at 8:30. This is all hypothetical. This is ChatGPT, thank you very much. Middle school 5th to 6th is 8:30. Middle school 7th and 8th is a 9:15 start. Yes, that affects bus times, but then you're using the same buses. You don't need as many buses. That is my first thought. Because again, if this is something that is talked about in the future, it's happening. And I want you to plan where you can avoid the 5th graders being on the same bus as the 8th graders. My next thought for elementary school, K to 5, and my children use it because there are 2 nights a week I work late, is the SAC program. My kids go to SAC, 2 days a week they're there late. What happens to those 5th graders? Is SAC still being offered for those 5th graders that are at middle school? Because I know my parents aren't going to be here long. My in-laws aren't going to be here long. Stay NJ is not happening. They are leaving. I want to know how you're keeping 5th grade, how you're keeping the SAC program, and how you're going to do that with staff. Please consider that in your plan. Please present it in your presentations. Thank you.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak?
Please note this is a first-time speaker.
My name is Jessica DiGiacomo. I have been in the Oak Ridge community side since 2016. Currently I live at 53 Greendale Drive. My son has been in PK for 2 years. I am class mom. I have been class mom for 2 years as well. When I had my children, I had a lot of reservations of staying in this town, specifically because I questioned the school system. I am not born and raised here. There is no disrespect to those of you who are. I lived in Bergen County previously. I am more familiar with that neck of the woods. My husband was born and raised here, grew up, did not attend the public school system. My mother-in-law felt very strongly about sending him to private school, and God rest her soul, I do believe she had a reason behind that because she saw it through the BS. I specifically agreed to stay here and ride it out and move from Grove Street to Greendale, one, because Farmcrest is a wonderful community with a great support system. Two, because PK is the highest rated elementary school, and I did my research. And the best research is talking to the people who attend these schools. We have very good friends who live in Pine Cliff Lake, and we watch them go through the heartache of closing Westbrook and what it did to their son. You have known about this. You are not transparent with your funds and your budget, it is clear. The policies that you're stating, you get 5 minutes, we spoke about this, suit you and your needs only. I am a healthcare worker. I deal with this every day, the smoke and mirrors that you're providing. You allow this forum for us to voice our frustrations and hope that we get it out and we go quietly into the night. You want us to echo your voice, but have you given us the information to help you build that narrative? To include our opinions. You're putting a lot of blame on the state. The state, yes, absolutely is to blame. Inappropriate funding, everything. However, you are not doing your due diligence. I work for a major medical corporation, a hospital. They dropped Aetna 2 years ago. You want to know who was next they were dropping? Horizon. Want to know what insurance company they provide those employees? Horizon. There is always an opportunity to go to the bargaining table. If it's a 30% increase and that's eating up our budget, do something about it. You're not. Also, you put up a slide about that closing PK is going to save the $3 million. What would it be if we closed all the elementary schools? Like, I want to know, what would it have saved us if we closed Marshall Hill? What would it be if we closed Upper Greenwood Lake? Where's the transparency in that? Was it like $1 million keeping them apart? Also, I have a question which you're not going to answer. When you closed Westbrook and you redistricted, when you reallocated the students, did you do it fairly, or did PK get lower numbers so they would show lower enrollment? Did you stack it? And also, now this is rumor, and I would like for you to clarify, maybe it's something you could speak directly to. There is a rumor that if you, superintendent, come under budget, you get a bonus.
On your own salary.
Do you? It's a fair question. I don't know.
That is absolutely 100% factually inaccurate.
Okay, that's great. I need a clarification because for your knowledge, that is a rumor going on and it makes you look very bad. So it's very good that you would answer something and clear the light. And I think that's what everyone here was looking for. I understand you are a collective board and you need to provide answers on a united front. However, in anticipation of something like this, you should have brainstormed, you should have anticipated what was going to be coming to you in question form so you could answer. Saying you cannot is unacceptable. And I'm going to be very honest, your long-term plan does not look good. And I will be the first to put that for sale sign on my front lawn.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak?
Close public comments.
Could I have a second? Second. All those in favor? Any opposed?
I want to tell you that when Westbrook closed,
So now we're going to
there would have been more
move
students at
into
PK.
executive session.
If
So,
they-
Mrs. Romeo, I'm going to have to stop you from speaking. Mrs. Romeo?
At 9:27, I move to go into public comment or executive session for the purpose of discussing matters of attorney-client privilege. The executive session minutes will not be released until such time as the privilege or confidentiality is no longer applicable.
All those in favor? Any opposed? We will be adjourning from executive session. Thank you, everyone, for your comments tonight.